Yeah, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to present in this very important session. And I would also like to thank Dr. Ravi for recommending me and inviting me to participate in this session and give a perspective on some of the innovations that we are associated with. And I have chosen to speak about the digital and data-driven agriculture innovations in Sub-Saharan Africa as part of this topic. This is a very important subject, especially in the context currently we are in, where we are talking a lot about artificial intelligence, machine learning approaches, the data economy, and how data is helping in terms of improving precision agriculture, improving the decision-making, decisions for policy support, and numerous areas. Now data has become a very, very important almost in all walks of our life. So agriculture is no exception. So I would like to present some of the perspectives from Sub-Saharan Africa, the work that we are doing in Sub-Saharan Africa. So this is my outline. I just briefly mentioned about who we are, and then the aspect of big data revolution, which is fueling the data economy, and then the approaches that IITA is using for harnessing data from our research work and how we are modeling them for use, especially for our stakeholders and end users, not only for research. And then I briefly touch upon use cases. I won't go into details, just to give a kind of flavor, the diversity of tools that we are using across for different disciplines and why we are using those tools. And at the end, some conclusions based on the work that we are doing and our experience in implementing digital tools in Sub-Saharan Africa. So very briefly about IITA. IITA is part of the CGIAR system, which is a global organization for international agriculture research and sustainable development. The CG system includes 15 centers, and since 2022, CGIAR has a new program called One CGIAR. As part of that, the number of centers involved are 13. But what you see on this map is the headquarters of the various CG centers, and IITA is located in Ibadan, Nigeria. That's where I am based. IITA is exclusively focused on tropical agriculture in Africa. The center was established in 1967, and it became part of the CGIAR family since its establishment in 71. All CG centers are non-profit and funded by various international donors. IITA, as I mentioned, is focused on tropical agriculture improvement in Sub-Saharan Africa. We are almost, it is one of the unique centers with almost exclusive focus in Sub-Saharan Africa. So I already mentioned about the outline. So just a quick recap. I would give a brief about IITA, the big data revolution, and then the IITA approaches on data harnessing and how we are using to develop use cases, especially for giving benefits to our end users. And I will touch upon 5 use cases in this study, in this presentation, and finally conclusions. I was just talking about who we are and CGIAR. I'm sure many of the participants and speakers are very familiar with it because of our wide partnerships. IITA is one of the CGIAR center, which is located in Nigeria, Ibadan, that's where the headquarters is. And we are part of the CGIAR family since CGIAR was established in 1971. All CG centers are non-profit organizations, and they are funded by a number of international donors. And IITA is very unique of all the CG centers because it has almost 100% focus in Sub-Saharan Africa, with exception to genetic resource conservation. So we mainly work on the food crops of importance to Sub-Saharan Africa, that is cassava, yam, banana, plantain, maize, soybean, and coffee. But this mandate is not exclusively limited to only these crops. We also work on vegetables, cocoa, other tree crops. It's all contextual, but primarily these 6 crops are very important because these crops are also very important for genetic resource conservation in our international gene bank. IITA was established in 67, And we have stations in almost 17 countries with operations in almost all countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. So now I move to the main topic, the digital and data. So this graphic here shows the roadmap of the digital revolution, which almost started in 1957 with the invention of transistors. And then there were various steps. But the major turning point happened with the introduction of World Wide Web that became a kind of a common access tool for public in late 1990s. And that was also the time people have access to personal computers. So this is the beginning of the digital IT revolution, I would say. And then since 2000, we benefited from the high-speed internet, which has fueled the entire new set of applications for both use of internet as well as computers. And at the same time, the change in the processors have bring in high-speed computing, even accessible at a desktop level. So now we are in a completely new era since the new millennia, fueled by high-speed internet, which has contributed to the establishment of social media, the emails, etc. And then came smartphones. Presently, we are in an era called big data, which has started since almost 2017. This is driven by several major elements, but some of the major one being the cloud computing. This has changed the whole landscape because now we could store an enormous amount of data very conveniently and more cost effectively compared to 10 years ago. And then it has become very easy for us now to harness data using different tools. Almost every day-to-day tools, such as even mobile phones, and there are the other electronic gadgets which can automatically collect data and then relay information, and that can be captured and stored in the cloud computing almost as an automatic process. So all of this is now driving a new set of applications, which are mainly driven by the machine learning methods and artificial intelligence. From the downstream application side, we are mainly using analytics. Data alone is not going to be very helpful. So this data is now can be processed very easily using analytical tools. And then we can derive a number of applications which can be used remotely, what we call now commonly as Internet of Things. And these are also again benefiting from the geospatial tools such as remote sensing data, which is also providing enormous amount of data by scanning the Earth surfaces and or other targeted applications from either using satellites or drones. So all of it is now generating humongous amount of data, which is now available. So now this is leading to what I call as a big data chain reaction. So once we have the data collected from in a vast data from different sources or very specific data from one particular source, and that will then lead to one particular application. And that application itself, the use of application then generates a new data set that will again leads to the development of another set of applications. So these applications again will feed back to the primary data. It will augment the primary data set and then fuel further applications. So the outputs that are coming from the primary data can also be augmented using the data that is generated. And there is also the interactions between the different outputs that are coming from these different products, data products, and then they lead to the further new applications. So there is no end to this. This chain is unlimited. It is down to our imaginations, what we want to do with the data. And all of this is made possible by the data that is available, most of it now free access. So this chain is actually giving us now opportunity to systematically harness data and generate actionable data sets and data products and new innovations. This is now leading to, especially in the agriculture context, several decision support tools, also helping us to make informed decisions guiding informed actions. It is also helping to make informed policies on various aspects, helping us to predict trends and provide forecasts on the future scenarios, and also helping to performance monitoring, just to highlight a few of these things. So now data has become a new oil, as a British mathematician once mentioned in 2006. The context at the time the used was new oil. Oil itself is not of a use unless it is refined and several products are brought out. But now, in the current context, oil is not only in terms of as a raw material, but also in terms of value. So now this data is a new oil that is driving the data economy. So agriculture is no exception. In case of what we call as digital agriculture, is a technology that is primarily being built on an ecosystem made of use cases. Every use case generates data, that data that is generated being fueled back, analyzed, and then reformatted into different data sets for actionable data and actionable decisions. So there are a number of elements here. I won't go into details all of it. Digital agriculture is one aspect where IITA is focusing mainly from harnessing the data that is coming out from the research applications. For instance, here in this diagram, I'm showing the research ecosystem of a typical CGIAR center, or for that matter, IITA. As an institution mainly focusing on agriculture development, our major focus is on improving crop varieties, which basically start from genetic resources coming from the gene banks, which are then used for screening, for identifying the traits of interest. And some of these germplasm that have good traits are being used in breeding programs to generate improved varieties. The improved varieties that are then generated are used for conducting global trials across several countries around the different continents. And then the selections that are made with varieties with the characters that can be used by the farmers are now fueled into the seed systems to generate bulk production of the seed of selected varieties for product, ultimately for product use. And the products that are coming out then can be used for processing or the final products. So at all these stages, a lot of data being generated. And this is not alone. And there are support elements, such as, in addition to the crop improvement, there are elements such as agronomy, natural resources, and plant health management, which working around this crop improvement ecosystem. On top of that, there is socioeconomics, food and nutrition, and agribusiness. And then there is elements on stakeholder engagement, working with the partners and having partnerships, learning from their experiences, how the different products are working in different socioeconomic contexts, geographies, political scenarios, and ultimately how these outputs that are coming out are contributing to sustainable development goals. And then there is a feedback loop. In all these cases, there is also simultaneously feedback loops looking at the impact assessment coming out from the monitoring and evaluation and learning cases. So you can imagine how many data points here. 10 years ago, our primary focus used to be on the core data, what is most essential. But today, because of the big data and the data harnessing tools, we could almost harness data at every point here at a very cheap and most economical way. And this is currently being happening. For instance, what we are doing now in this ecosystem where we are harnessing data almost from multiple sources. What I call conventional data collection is, if there is a breeding program, they primarily focus on collecting data concerned with the breeding. On top of that, then we combine remote sensing information. We collect simultaneously a landscape data where the breeding trials are being conducted, and also collect weather information, soil nutrient and moisture data, and then the crop food and nutrient analysis coming out from these products. We also monitor physiological changes. We can also harness changes at the cellular and molecular level, food consumption patterns, and producer and value chain decisions, and several others. All this data that is coming out from the independent data streams are now being integrated and analyzed. And ultimately, we are using this information for improved prediction. So in the past, we only look at the data collected from for instance, from the breeding programs, only looking at how the variety is performing in a given context. Now the same data we are looking at from the multiple perspectives. Is this product suitable for the consumer? Is this product suitable for a particular market? Is it effective for a different agroecology? What happens if the moisture level drops? So we can analyze this information from multiple dimensions. So it is improving our prediction. It is helping our decision making. It is also helping our resource use efficiency. And ultimately, all it is doing is also to further improve our innovations and ultimately helping us in terms of institutional reforms and policy decisions. So in this, the schema, what I'm showing is we have two structures here. The structure on the right side is basically the infrastructure that we have to harness data coming out from our research programs. And coming from different research programs, the data storage facilities and analytics. And then the set that is on the right side is all about using that data for applications. For example, how we can use that information for improving the value chains and markets. How can we improve the crop management and agronomy at the farmer level? How to improve pest and disease surveillance. So this is now a completely what we call a transdisciplinary approach. So now we have this year, 2023, we are now starting a new unit called Digital Agriculture Action to basically harness this integrated data and put into better use. So we have digital sequence information, which we are using for managing our genetic resources and breeding. There are many applications. One of it is to improve the management of our genetic resource collections by looking at the diversity and eliminating the duplicates so that we can improve the collection management. We also have digital sequence data now for different traits. Without going into the field phenotyping, we can use these markers for quickly scan the genetic material and identify and create trait pools. We're also now accelerated the breeding using these markers. So it is reducing the breeding cycle and the time to deliver the products to the farmers in a much shorter time. And we're also looking at the functional aspects of the different genes, which then can be used for generating the new products through advanced technologies such as CRISPR. One thing that I would like to mention here is all the data that we are collecting and harnessing from our work is in adherence to the general data protection regulation and fair and open access data policies. The second use case is about the data that is being collected from agronomy trials. Now we have the long-term data that is now being used to generate machine learning models to provide site-specific fertilizer recommendation. It is by crop, by location. And this is now has been modeled, and we have developed an app. Now, instead of farmers randomly applying different levels of fertilizers, they can now select what is the right combination of fertilizer and how much they need to apply for a different crop. So these tools are already being piloted in Nigeria and Kenya and Tanzania. And considering that not all farmers have these mobile applications, we are also looking at how this same information can be also provided in other forms, for example, as printable guides, which can be used by more farmers, not only those who have digital access. So this is now improving, for instance, the resolution of the fertilizer being applied at the field levels. We have now better precision data, and also how it is helping in terms of increasing the yields. So all this can be now captured in real time, and this data can be now used for further modeling and improve the models that we have for improving the decision support to the farmers. So at the moment, this tool is being used by more than 4,000 farmers in 2 countries. And there is evidence already coming out from these trials that there is an increase in almost 75% yield in those farmers using this application. The third use case is about the disease diagnostics, how we are using the data and modeling it for machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now we have mobile apps that can be used for recognizing diseases, which can also then guide what kind of management solutions that need to be applied. Here is one example, Plant Village Nuru, which we developed in collaboration with Penn State University. Likewise, we have tools that now combines remote sensing approaches for landscape to field level surveillance, which is very, very important for doing surveillance in heterogeneous cropping systems, because Africa is all about smallholder farmers. Identifying the crops where they are present is very important to guide the surveillance. This is currently being used for precision surveillance to precisely identify where the affected crops are, so that management solutions can be applied. And this is now being used for banana bunch top surveillance in both East and West Africa. These tools are now being integrated with diagnostics and real-time reporting systems, and it is currently being used by the extension office and quarantine agencies. And another application is about improving the seed systems. One of the major challenges in Sub-Saharan Africa is seed systems is dominated by the informal sector. That means they are completely invisible. How to streamline this? So we have developed one application called Seed Tracker, which seamlessly integrates seed value chain actors, right from the producers to all the way to the marketers. And this tool can also be used for managing the quality and how to produce the quality seed because of the inbuilt, the guiding system that it has, which is in compliance with the regulatory system. I would skip the details in the interest of time. But what I can tell you is that since the implementation of this for cassava, which was piloted in Nigeria and Tanzania, for the first time now, we have seed production maps. And we can literally track how this is happening and which variety is being grown, the changes, etc. And also this tool has another benefit of giving market access, because this tool can be accessed by anybody and they can place order, directly get in touch with producers. Another good thing is some of the regulatory agencies have adopted it as a national platform. Thereby now we have created a national seed information system, for example, in Nigeria. So this system is now currently being used by the National Agriculture Seed Council to assess the trend, seed production trend, and then predict forecast, and then plan for next year. This innovation has won the Google Award. This is the last application, the Farmer Information Management System. We are further building on how to build an e-extension system that can benefit the farmers at the grassroots level. So this is currently being implemented in Ogun State as the first case, which is funded by the World Bank, where we are registering the farmers and value chain actors. And now they are connected with the farmer, the ministry who can implement this online e-extension system. So to conclude, what we have shown is that the data that is systematically harnessed can actually go much longer way. It's not only benefiting our research decisions, but also helping our downstream applications and also adding value to our stakeholders and end users. And the use cases that I have shown, it gives a different examples, the use cases for research, use cases for intermediary advisory, and the use cases for the end users. But then we have to remember one thing, that these are not without challenges. There are challenges. So one of the challenges, and some of the challenges in Africa is lack of awareness about ICT tools. There is limited digital literacy, and then lack of continuity. Most of the tools are funded by the projects. When the project finishes, then there is a lack of continuity to support. So we are also looking at the solutions, how to stop these challenges becoming a recurrence. So this is what is now triggering what I call digital agriculture action, where we are thinking about a sustainable strategy to promote and integrate ICT application at all levels. So this is mainly based on the end user centered design and co-creation to make sure that the stakeholders are part of the decision and development of the design so that the tool is useful for them. We are making partnership with not only with the researchers and the extensions, but we are also making partnership with the grassroots whose input is vital, especially if we want to make the tool sustainable. Training is most important. We have now looking at the different ways of training. It is not just traditional approach, multiple ways of performance training, and then creating local champions to pilot ICTs and demonstrate the benefits, because most often consumers use when one of them shows the benefit rather than somebody else demonstrating it. So with that, I'll conclude by thanking our team. There's a large team involved. I'm the co-chair of this initiative along with Dr. Dixon at IITA. And I would also like to thank the organizers and APARI for giving me this opportunity. And thank you very much.